Welcome to the New Ulm Forum. I'm Lynda Beck. I'm representing the New Ulm League of Women Voters, and our guest today is Chris Bodick. He's the principal and coordinator of the Riverbend Area Learning Center and Imprints programs. Welcome, Chris, and let's start out. Could you just tell us a little bit about yourself, your path to becoming the principal coordinator of these programs at Riverbend?
Yeah, well, thanks for having me, Lynda. Well, I'm originally from Minnesota, grew up in the Twin Cities, and went to school at the University of Minnesota, and upon finishing up there in the 80s, there weren't too many teaching jobs around, so I was talked into moving to Alaska by one of my close friends from high school, and I started to teach in Alaska. I taught there for 8 years, lived in Alaska for 12, and then started a family, and that pulled us back to Minnesota. Had grandparents that couldn't live without their grandkids. So we moved back, and in coming back here, applied at several different locations around the state, and New Ulm was the place that interviewed me and hired me at Riverbend. And I started there as the technology coordinator and took care of all the technology needs. Did that for 9 years, and then my director asked me if I'd be interested in being an administrator and being a coordinator, and I took that job 9 years ago, so this is my 18th year at Riverbend.
Wow.
Yeah.
No, I didn't realize that. Wow. And could you tell us a little bit about the history of Riverbend Education District and some information on the programs, and maybe even kind of the governing, how Riverbend works?
Well, I've been there since 2001, and I know there's history of Riverbend before me, but Riverbend is an education district, and it was formed to serve the needs of the member school districts. We currently have 7 member districts and 1 charter school that benefit from all of the special ed services that we have. I think it started in a house and then moved into another building, ended up in a building downtown New Ulm near the Baccarat, and then moved into the 20th South Street building that I started in. Now, I think it was 10 years ago, through strategic planning, we learned that our building wasn't big enough for us anymore. We had outgrown it, and we moved into our current school location of 1315 South Broadway. We've now gone through the strategic planning again, and lo and behold, we discovered that, again, our facilities are not large enough to meet all of our needs. So we may be moving in the near future. Let's see, what else did you want to know?
The governing of
governing.
Yeah.
So Riverbend, at kind of the top of our organization, is the Director of Special Education, Doug Hazen, and he functions right alongside all the superintendents from the school districts, and they kind of plan out what programming we'll have. The next level down will be myself and Anna Fleshman. We're both coordinators at Riverbend. Anna is in charge of the RISE program, the Raptor program, and the Work program, and I'm in charge of the Area Learning Center and the Imprints program.
Okay. And you also have a board. Kind of tell us about the makeup of the board a little bit and how often they meet.
Yeah, our board is made up of 1 person from each of the resident or member school districts, and then 1 person from the charter schools. And they meet once a month. And
Okay. And the public can come to the board meetings, the regular board meetings?
Yeah.
How many, do you know roughly how many special education students are served by the Riverbend member schools? And you serve both public and parochial schools, is that correct?
Yes, we do. I think right now we're around 1,500 students that we serve. So Riverbend employees actually go out into the districts. Those would be the school psychologists, occupational therapists, teachers of the deaf and hard of hearing. Probably missing some, but they're out actually working with students in the districts. And then we do have special ed programs that are at our 1315 South Broadway location.
And also early childhood programming?
Yes, I shouldn't forget them, because they're out in the homes working with those kiddos up to from birth to 5.
Okay, and I should probably point out, I worked at Riverbend and I retired about a year ago, so I probably know a lot of this information already, but I'm sure there's new things going on there all the time. And Now we'll talk we'll focus on the Area Learning Center. What are the eligibility requirements for a student to attend the ALC?
Yeah, so we are considered a choice school, that a family can make the choice for their son or daughter to come to our program. It's a 7th through 12th program, and there is a list of 12 criteria, and they would need to meet one of those criteria. They range from being behind in credits to having tested, below their peers on any of the state testing. Students that have or are currently suffering from any mental health issues. If they're pregnant or a teen parent, there's a total of 12 criteria.
Okay. And what services are provided at the Area Learning Center, such as special education? Do you have guidance counselors there, like a regular high school?
Yeah, well, actually, funny that you mentioned guidance, because this year we added a guidance counselor, and it has just been an amazing year having Nikki Thompson there. Previously, all that was on my plate, and it's freed me up, but she's also brought things to the table, like getting our students out to college visits and to career fairs. And I think this year we have more students currently that have looked at schools, have submitted applications, been accepted, and are heading off to college next year.
Oh, wow.
So it's been very exciting to have that. But in addition to the guidance counseling, we also have a student services liaison, and it's kind of a fancy word for a school-based mental health worker. So she's there to work with, any of the students from the smallest issue, to working with students that ultimately, she's helping them get connected with outside therapy. In addition to that, we do have special education there. Joan S. is our special ed teacher, and we're also using one of the Imprints teachers as a special ed teacher this year as well. Okay. I mentioned that we have 7th and 8th graders there, and that's our mid-level program, and that's more of a specialized program for those guys. They're in a self-contained class with a teacher, and she does all of their subjects except art and PE. They go out to those subjects.
Okay. And how many students attend the ALC at this time, and what's the class size?
We currently have about 85 students, which is kind of the number we've been averaging the last few years. And we really shoot for between 15 and 20 students.
For the class, for class size.
Per class, yep.
Okay. And could you talk about some of the changes you've seen over the years? You also worked with the students. You taught technology classes also before you were the principal. And what are some of the student needs changes, or just some changes you've seen over those years? Well,
definitely in the technology area, one of the biggest changes I saw was that when I started, staff were afraid to push the button sometimes on their equipment because they were afraid they were going to break it. And that quickly changed, and then people were coming to me with all these fantastic ideas that they thought their computer should be able to do for them, and they were frustrated that it couldn't do it. So in a really short period of time, people went from being a little afraid of technology to just completely embracing it to the point that they thought it was going to be the answer for everything. As far as, in the alternative school world at Riverbend, one thing that we've noticed is for a lot of years, the majority of our students were seniors. We were a program that, really catered to seniors who had come back and wanted to finish school. They had been behind in credits, and we'd work with them, and some of them would be super seniors in their 5th or 6th year. Well, in the last 4 years, we've really seen a leveling out between our 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade cohorts. So, in the past where we maybe had a handful of 9th graders, in the past few years, we've had like 20 and 20 10th graders and 20 11th graders, and just an even number across the board. So that's been one thing that's changed. Another thing that I've seen a lot more of, and we hear about this in the press, is mental health issues. I think a lot of our kids are suffering from anxiety and depression, from a low level of it to a more significant level. And that's why it's been really important that we've had that programming there with our student services liaison to work with them, because our whole effort there is to build skill in them that they can manage their anxiety or their depression well enough that they can be in school and continue to have academic success.
Okay, so it's it sounds like you make changes as the student needs change, you make changes.
Yeah, we're always responding to what we see with the students. You know, and over the years, we've seen the ebb and flow of different initiatives from both the federal government and the state government, and we just adapt to those as best we can.
Right, right. And do you have fundraisers during the year?
We do. One ongoing fundraiser that we've had for several years in the fall is we bake, take and bake apple pies and apple crisp, and we've done that probably for 12 or 15 years. So we continue to do that. We still have pies and apple crisp available. Another thing.
And what is the cost of?
They're $8 a piece, or 2 for $15.
Okay, all right.
Another fundraiser that we've done for several years is, I call it collecting garbage, but it isn't garbage. It's the UPC labels from any of the Hy-Vee brand items. We just brought those in last week, and it was just under $300.
Wow, wow.
In the past, we've also done some large fundraising events, and we've kind of taken a break for the last few years, but we do have an event, and hopefully they'll share this with you. We're going to have our first annual Riverbend Golf Tournament and fundraiser. That'll tentatively set for Friday, June 7th at the Sleepy Eye Golf Course, and it'll be a 3-person scramble tournament. So we're trying something new.
Oh, yeah.
We've got a few people on staff that are golfers, and they said, hey, this might be something we can try, and I think we're willing to try something different. So, and all of the proceeds from the apple pies and the Hy-Vee labels go to the Area Learning Center's Student Activity Fund, and that activity fund is used for, we try each month to have a pancake breakfast for the students. It's kind of a social event. We also use that for any activity days that we plan to be able to buy any of the supplies or to pay for busing to get out to some of those days. The golf tournament is going to be more building-wide for the 5 different programs that are in the building.
All of Riverbend,
yeah,
okay.
Yeah, to support all the school programs.
Okay. And another ALC question about graduation ceremony. Do you still have a graduation ceremony?
We do, yes. And this year, it's a little twist on it this year. Since we do have 5 school programs in the building now, we have kids that'll graduate from any one of those programs. So we decided it would make sense if it was an all Riverbend graduation ceremony. So we will be including, I'm pretty sure, 1 student from the Imprints program will be finishing this year, and there may be 1 from the work program. So this year it'll be on May 22nd at 1 p.m. at the National Guard Armory. And it's open to the public if you want to come and witness a pretty neat graduation ceremony. We try to get 2 of our students to give a speech, and some of their educational journeys took a little bit different path than most, and some of them really are tear-jerkers, and it's inspiring. We make all of our kids come to the graduation ceremony, and every year I have students come up to me afterwards, some of the younger classmen, and say, that's pretty cool, I want to graduate. So it's been a good experience.
And I've never gone to one of the ceremonies, but maybe this year. And you said May 22nd.
Yes, at 1 p.m.
Okay. And I'm going to ask you about your website. And is the graduation information, the date and time, going to be on your website?
Yes,
or is that...
yeah. We'll make sure that gets up there.
Okay. And so website information, could you just tell everyone?
Yes, it's rbed.sharpschool.net.
Okay. Okay. So if you have more or want more information on Riverbend, I guess just check the website. And is there anything else you wanted to add today?
Thanks for the exposure. We're always looking to educate people about the programs at Riverbend. And this was a great way to do it.
Great. Well, thanks to Chris Bodick for being our guest today. And we'll see you next time. Thanks.